We are live. Let me just double check. Gonna start it and let's see if we go live. Trying to make sure we're also live on Abstract 2. Not yet. Let me see. All right, we are good. We are live. Good morning here from outside uh, beautiful Orlando, Florida. Down in Florida for a cheer competition for my daughter. And joining you as we do each Saturday before our UFC fight nights or UFC events for our stream. My name is Fred Endy. I am one of the co-founders of Spredict. We are an evolved predictive gaming platform designed to provide our prediction family with options for predictive gaming that they can't find anywhere else. And we do that in three different ways. First, we build out our games as subscription services, kind of think like the Netflix or Spotify of predictive gaming. We also create games that are very different. They are not simple A, B, or C, or predict the option directly type of games. We build in elements that players won't find anywhere else. Everything from our favorite feature to the design of our games, like our F1 game, Clash of Champions. All of those elements that are built into those games add something a little bit different so that your predictive experience feels different, looks different, and provides you with the type of gaming that you hope to engage in. And then third, we also build our games for maximum community engagement. Our games are designed to allow players to compete against each other and can be built out individually for lounges, for other projects, as a way to create engagement and community building within those spaces. And so we can tailor make any type of game and or experience to your needs. So if you have a community of UFC lovers and want to create a MMA style UFC fight night event just for your community, we can do that. Right? So that's a little bit about who we are. And each week we pop on for a short bit, sometimes with guests, sometimes individually with me, to talk a little bit about our UFC events for the week. Now, last week I was 3 for 5 in my picks. Not as great as I would have liked to be, but still decent, right? And this week I'm going to try and go 4 for 4 with our pick selections. This evening we have a UFC fight night, which is being held in Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines, Iowa. Right, so if you happen to be in Des Moines, Iowa, get out there, head to the Wells Fargo Arena for tonight's fight night event. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our DAP and encourage everyone to visit our Spredict DAP. It is all free to play. You can see it down in the bottom tagline. dap.spredict.io is where you can visit us and play, all free, no cost, just a little bit of time. And of course, we'd love your feedback as you use it. I'm going to pull up our DAP, make some picks live. I'm going to talk about each of the 4 fights that we've put on our Spredict card for this week, and then we'll see how we do, right? So let me pull up our DAP. Now, our Spredict DAP is live on Abstract, and so you'll be able to connect utilizing a Abstract Global Wallet. So let me pull up and stream. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Let me do that. Okay, share screen. hold on. I've got to get the DAP up. Here we go. All right, now you should be seeing the DAP on screen, right? And I'm going to walk you through connecting and then also talking about the fights and making our picks. I'm going to pull up some of my research for our 4 fights, right? So what you'll first do, and I'll walk you through the DAP really quickly. There's a quick getting started area where you can kind of figure out how to use the DAP, but that's what I'm here for today. I'll point out that on the left-hand side, you'll see a number of different menus. Currently live now is our MMA portal, where you'll be able to play in our face-off game, which is the first of our MMA style games. We're working on a finish style game, which will have you select the finish that you think. A variety of different fights within a larger card will include. And then you'll see our below that our Formula One tab, right? And that is that contains our Clash of Champions game, as well as additional F1 games that we are building out, and then a button for our crypto element. And one of the things that is really important to share is that our games are designed to be of interest to as many people as possible, right? We want everyone to be able to take part. And we also recognize that not everyone is a sports fan, right? Not everybody loves sports or engages in them, right? Or thinks that they are incredibly interesting, right? And we recognize that, you know, we totally get it and understand that that's the case. And so what we've done is we've built out our games to include more than just sports, right? And so if you, as we continue to build, right, our goal is to allow you to engage in whatever feels most interesting and intriguing for you. You know, we really want to make sure that you are able to take advantage of what we've built. And so that's really the rationale for including both sports and crypto elements within our DAP. And then below that, you'll see a section for rewards and get your Spredict pass. As we scale, you'll be able to purchase monthly subscriptions to our games, right? You'll pay once, you'll play for that time period, and then you'll compete for rewards, which you'll be able to claim through our rewards tab. So I'm going to get myself connected. All right, I'm going to authorize. Okay, and now my wallet is connected, as you can see on top, right? So let's go through these 4 fights, right? And let's take a look at what we've got. And so the design, what you'll see, oh, one other thing to point out, you'll see on the top our current pools that are open, right? And we just made a shift so that all our most recent pools are up at the top, right? You can scroll down to see what some of the other pools have been. And so up at the top are what you can pick. We're working on a past results tab, which will show you all of your picks in the past, as well as a leaderboard, which is where your prizes and points will be located, and then, of course, additional instructions. And so here are our 4 fights for the evening, right? We've got our main event fight, which is actually, believe it or not, the fight that I am, of these 4, maybe least interested in, and I don't mean that in any type of negative or bad way, simply that I think for me, this fight is pretty well determined, even though the rankings are pretty close. As you can see, Sandhagen is ranked 4th in the bantamweight category. Figueiredo is 5th. The thing for me, Corey Sandhagen, he's 17-5 is his record. Davison Figueiredo is 24-4-1. So both of these fighters are incredibly strong, right? They are solid fighters, as you can tell from their rankings. They are contenders within the bantamweight division. Sandhagen is heavily favored here. Certainly more heavily favored for a main event than we've seen in a while. On the surface, it isn't necessarily hard to see why that is. He basically has a solid 6 inches of height over Figueiredo, right? So he's 6 inches taller than him, which when you're in the ring makes a significant difference. He's also 4 years younger. Now, 4 years in the MMA space is not a huge difference, but what we've come to learn is there's a balance between experience that fighters have in the octagon, right, and the health of their bodies as connected to their age, right? It's not always kind of like directly connected, but usually the younger the fighter is, the more stamina they tend to have, usually, right? And the more capable they are of handling hits and tough fights. But that's often balanced by the experience they have, right? On the mat. And so there's a balance between where age and experience meets, and Sandhagen is in that space, at the moment, maybe a little more so than Figueiredo. Not to mention he does have a few additional inches of reach, not as big a deal, in my opinion, as having that larger height and age difference. Both fighters have similar significant strike and takedown accuracy. They are, as I said, both strong fighters. But half a foot of height can really help you in terms of dominating your opponent. And he is a fighter, actually, who's got some of the meanest flying knees in the business. Also comfortable going to the ground, strong takedowns. He lost most recently to Umar Nurmagomedov, but prior to that had won his last 3. Let's see. Yes, most recently against Rob Font, right, which is a worthwhile win to mention. Figueiredo's record kind of matches Sandhagen, also tough fighter. He lost to Jan in November and had previously won his prior 3, right? So these two fighters are coming off similar recent records. Figueiredo is incredibly mobile. He's also somebody who can fight upright and on the ground. I do think, just from watching videos, that Sandhagen is maybe a bit more strategic as a fighter than Figueiredo is. It seems like there's a better balance of thinking with emotion on Sandhagen's part. I do think what's so interesting is the bantamweight division. Like the top 3. So Dvalishvili, O'Malley, Nurmagomedov are kind of like, they're really in what feels like a different category to me. So you look at those rankings, and it's tough to see, like, Sandhagen kind of starts like the human part of the division, and those other 3 are kind of like superhuman fighters. So it's hard to figure out the division from that perspective in my book. I do think Sandhagen is overall a better fighter. I like fighters who can balance strategy and emotion fairly well. I think they're both strong. I think it has the potential to be a valuable fight to watch. I just think Sandhagen will end up pulling through. I don't feel as kind of torn between the pick here. So I'm going with the chalk. I'm going to go with Sandhagen. Were I to be putting any money down, I don't know if, this would feel like a chalky fight for me. I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would add it into or make a pick, though I might add it to a parlay just as some additional odds. So let's go on to this is like the only welterweight on our picks for this go around, and we've got Santiago Ponzinibbio, right, 31-8, so a bit of a journeyman from Argentina, taking on Daniel Rodriguez from the USA, 18-5. From an odds standpoint, this fight throughout the week has been quite even. You know, part of the reason, of course, being that these two are about as even physical attribute-wise as would be possible. There's really no difference that's worth noting in terms of their physical attributes. Rodriguez is a more accurate striker, succeeds more effectively on takedowns, but both fighters do show solid takedown, significant strike accuracy. Ponzinibbio had a string of about 5 years where he was like on a roll. From 2015 to might be 2019, he won all 7 of his fights. That's pretty impressive when you think of a 7-run streak for a fighter. Those days are gone, though. I mean, and that's not really a dig on Ponzinibbio. This guy has fought almost 40 fights, and that's a long career for anyone. He took a roughly 3-year break off from fighting, right? And his record has not been particularly strong since coming back. So in the 4 years, right? So basically 8 fights since he's returned. He's lost 5 and won 3, and that's not, I mean, not a great record by numbers, but it's also tough when a fighter takes time off and then comes back and maybe lost part of their mojo. He can hit really hard. I mean, this guy can fight. He grapples with the best of them. It's just tough to tell whether his career is basically over. You know, and I think we've seen some of this before with fighters who take a year or 2 off, right, and then come back, and some of the, if not drive, like ability to really withstand the damage in the octagon is kind of gone. So D-Rod, right, in a similar situation, Daniel Rodriguez, similar case. He has lost 3 of his last 5 as well, so real challenge. You know, a loss to Machado Gary isn't something where you'd be necessarily surprised, right? But Rodriguez really has struggled in some of his recent fights. Again, a strong fighter, grapples well, but it's unclear whether that will be enough to keep him going. You know, neither of these fighters, in my opinion, is truly dominant, and so this is an interesting pick for me. I think that the result of this fight will lead to looking at one of these two as a potential comeback fighter. Does Ponzinibbio, the journeyman, right, longtime fighter, does he start on an uptrend with this beat of D-Rod, or does Rodriguez prove that you know, he's only at the midpoint of his career and can really start to ascend during the second half? I like Rodriguez to win here. I think I'm going to pick Rodriguez. I know it's really even on the odds standpoint, and so Vegas isn't even sure. But for me, as I was looking at the two and watching a little bit of video, I just don't see Ponzinibbio with the drive anymore. I think he's basically done. I think a number of years off, a losing record over the last few years is enough. I don't see D-Rod as like a superstar where this is going to send him back on the path to greatness, but I see them both capable of winning this fight. I just think D-Rod has more checks in his column for this one. So I'm going to pick him. Then we move on and back to the bantamweights. It's just so funny that there's been like, we tended to pick a number of bantamweights for this week. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll really look to pick fights on the main card that have the tightest odds, excluding the main event, right? So Sanhagen and Figueiredo, of course, the odds have not been tight, but a main event is a main event, right? And so you want to make sure that you offer that up as part of the card. For the rest, we usually look for fights where Vegas isn't sure, right? It just adds a little bit of an element, and you can see that star on each of the pools. That is for our favorite feature that tracks where the majority of people are making their picks. And the will come into play when our Spredict pass is open. You'll get more points for going against the grain and picking an underdog and having them win, right? So more on that once our Spredict pass launches. So here we've got Montel Jackson, who's 14-2 from the United States, against Daniel Marcus, 17-0, an undefeated fighter from Peru. So yes, an undefeated record says a lot. He's shown his toughness in the 5 fights that he's been in UFC. He's a versatile fighter, though his record might seem a little stronger than it really is. Only his KO of Oliveira was dominant. He had this fantastic flying knee, which really put Oliveira kind of out of commission, and then Marcos just finished him off. But the rest of his fights in the UFC have been via decision and 2 split. So his UFC record is not particularly amazing, right? So though he is undefeated, which kudos to Marcos for sure, his UFC record does not match what you might think of when you see 17-0. Right? So it's tough to tell how he's going to handle Montel Jackson. Jackson is favored at 200 in this fight, and brings some physical attributes that put him in a position where Vegas might favor him a little more highly. He's 3 inches taller, significant reach. He's got a half foot of additional reach over Marcos, stronger striking and takedown accuracy. So on paper, you could understand why Vegas might lean, not heavily, but towards Jackson. He's a strong fighter too, right? He's won his last 5 fights and putting in some solid knockouts, right? His last fight last year in 2024 against Blackshear just took over 18 seconds for a knockout. And of course, that is not common, right? It was a pretty solid watch. Blackshear just like crumbled after. He's also a stronger takedown fighter than Marcos is, right? And so I would say that given Jackson's ability to fight, and again, Marcos strong fighter too, and Jackson's slightly better physical attributes, his higher takedown percentage, I'm going to pick Jackson for this. I think this is going to be a fight where Marcos does not come out undefeated, and where we get the sense that as amazing as that record is, it does not necessarily show a fighter who can't be beaten. Right, and then our last pool for the card, it's another bantamweight. I know it's ridiculous, right? But they were fun from an odds perspective. We've got Cameron Smotherman, also of the U.S., 12-4, versus Sir Hesidi of Ukraine, 11-2. You know, Vegas likes Sidi ever so slightly here. It is a very, very low odd boost for him. His record is statistically a bit better when you look at the 11-2 versus 12-4. He's also a little bit taller, slightly longer reach than Smotherman does. Neither fighter really relies on ground fighting effectively. These tend to be much more upright fighters in the octagon. Smotherman looks like a kid, actually. I mean, if you look at this guy, his nickname is like, I forget, Babyface Killer. It's like, I mean, but he really does look like he could be 10 years old. And his record kind of matches that. He's had one fight in the UFC since entering the program, which he won by decision. But City is new as well, right? So this is a bit of a battle of the some new faces into UFC. City is new as well. He's one more fight in than Smotherman. His first fight was a split decision loss, and his most recent was a split decision win. So again, we don't have a lot of detail on either of these two fighters, enough to know where their careers are headed. As I mentioned, City is like at 135, so this is not an easy fight to pick. I had to smile when I saw Smotherman because of how young he looks. So that for me is like a boost, right? I mean, this guy is it's like a 10-year-old in the octagon. But I also like fighters who recognize that a significant amount of MMA is audience connection and participation, right? If you have the audience behind you, it makes a significant difference. And the fact that he even calls himself the baby-faced Killer, right? And Killer misspelled, right? Killa, shows that he's also somebody who gets the importance of engagement, right? And so with both of these fighters new, I'm gonna put my pick and my money behind a fighter who gets the audience and engagement. So I'm gonna lock in for Smotherman, and then I'm gonna validate my prediction. Right, and I get a little pop-up tab that comes up. I lock it in, right, and I am good to go, right? My transaction's complete. I can refresh the screen, and my picks should show up if I scroll up. Let's see. Did they lock in? There they are. Right, and so you should see them on your screen momentarily as picks, right? And there we go. So I am locked in. I've got Santagan, Rodriguez, Jackson, and Smotherman. Holy cow, it's like a whole USA card, right? Who knew? I am American, but did not pick the American piece solely on purpose there. So that's there you have it, right? That is our depth. That is kind of like the Spredict structure, and we encourage you, to please again check it out. There it is, right, bottom of the screen, dap.spredict.io. We would love for you to get your picks in, right? Have fun making your selections. Let us know how you do, right? I'm going for a 4 for 4 for this evening. And yeah, thanks for joining. Thanks for being a Spredict supporter, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon.